we will deal with that in the courts. So one of the things that I felt like we were supposed to talk about was just simple court stuff. Like sometimes we get into the complicated court stuff, but I felt like we need to just do simple court stuff again. And so we're going to do that. I felt like we need to talk about the great cloud of witnesses. And then also, I had one more thing I felt was really important, and now all of a sudden it's leaving me. Reminder, Jesus. Well, doggone. It'll come to you.
It will come to you.
It better come to me. It was an important one. Okay, well.
If we have time, can we talk about the 3, 7, and 10?
Yes.
And where that comes
She's
from.
speaking my language.
3, 7, and 10?
She's talking kingdom order. This is one of my mandates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we covered it. I mean, we talked about it a little bit.
I don't know.
Last time I was here.
Okay,
maybe.
well, here.
And so, yeah, it's like, I mean,
I'm
I kind of
excited
get it,
to
but I
talk
kind of
about
don't
this.
get it.
Okay, well, let me just tell you about
I
it.
just don't know where it comes from.
When I said a dream, I never did this on the page.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish you would have.
And
love
I
it.
just kept forgetting.
Okay, so let me talk about that real fast. It won't take long.
Okay.
Okay, let me preface this. God specifically, actually, in the same day, he told me this, so I'm going to have to read it to you.
Otherwise,
I
I'll
was in
forget.
the Court of Kings. We were doing legislation. I was at a Mike Parsons conference, the national conference, the one he came here for. Then that same week later, there was a national one that was in Nebraska. I went to that.
Oh, yeah.
And anyway, we were doing this legislation. And I was really new to that stuff, like super new. Yeah, okay. Had no idea what I was doing except for, okay, God, if you want to tell me something and I'm open, that's what I basically said. And he started pouring out stuff. Well, what was funny is when this happened, I received these 3 different scrolls with different stuff on it. And then I wrote it all down, as we went through it. And then he asked for anybody to share who got stuff. And Jeff, who was next to me, was like, go on up. I'm like, no way. Nope. I'm a baby in this. No, not doing it. Everybody else is going to have way better stuff than me. And then people got up and started sharing. And it was all like really immature. And I was like, maybe I should have gotten But it was very weird because I was so new. I just thought because I'm new, I must be immature. And so what I do want to say, first of all, God can speak to you even if you're doing it for the very first time. It all has to do with intimacy. So if you are rooted in intimacy, already you are mature, most likely. Okay? Now, I didn't understand that. I thought, this is new, I'm immature. Sometimes it can be new and you're already mature. So I'm just going to put that out there because I certainly didn't understand that at first. I wish I did.
Could you repeat that, please?
Even if something is new, it doesn't mean that you're immature. It just may mean that you haven't done it before. And so there are things that I experienced in the higher courts for the first time, and I thought because I was new, I wouldn't be where other people were at, and I was wrong. And I said that maturity is rooted in intimacy. And so if you have a very intimate relationship with the Lord, you are already growing into maturity. And so that's what I didn't really understand. I had a very intimate relationship with the Lord when I started all this stuff. If you aren't rooted in intimacy, most likely you're immature. Just putting it out there, okay? That does not mean that you're bad. It just means there's growing to do, okay? There's always growing to do.
Yeah.
Let's just be
That's
clear.
good.
But
Sure.
Yeah.
there's probably more
people that
growing
have
to do.
been saved for 30, 40 years, but they still don't even remotely understand hearing from God.
Right.
Well,
And
Can I
that's
just
pretty
say
drastic,
something?
but
Sure.
unfortunately it's
I said this in the group last night, and I'm like, my idea, I never even understood. They'd always talk about quiet times. I never really understood quiet times. Okay, so you get up first thing in the morning and you read your Bible and you pray, and I'm like, pray for what? Pray about what? I I know this may sound lame to a lot of people. Whatever. It's where I was at. And so therefore, one, I didn't have that because it really didn't make sense to me. And two, when I did do anything with the Lord, it all revolved around reading the Bible. I mean, I've read the Bible several times through. Doesn't mean that is intimacy with the Lord. That's reading the Bible. And I'm not saying that you cannot get revelation, that he doesn't speak to you through that. He certainly does.
Right.
But I'm simply saying that reading the Bible does not equal intimacy.
No, it doesn't.
20 times. It's not
Very
the same
true.
thing. Reading your Bible is great, but that's not necessarily intimacy.
No.
You said you had that intimate relationship, so therefore, since intimacy is basically the bottom line here between you and Jesus, you just skyrocketed. Me, I'm having to work on that, and I'm better with intimacy than I was. At least now I understand what it is. I didn't even understand what it was.
Linda,
Linda, it was what it was.
Linda, you know what I do in the morning? I get up and I chat with the Lord. I just chat. I just talk to him. I just chat saying, and I just different things, just things that are on my mind. I give him my opinions. I talk about people and say, Lord, whatever. And
yeah,
because it's just like, Lord, you know what? It's like, is there something with them, or is it me, or my misperception? And then I just chat with the Lord and I said, well, Lord, maybe they need your love, or, bring them the right people to say the right thing, or blah, 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 blah. And I just chat and I just tell him, and I tell him what I think. And then he tells me what I just chat, and that's intimacy. And there's so many times where I'm enjoying my chats with the Lord that I say, oh, I really need to go. I say, Lord, I really need to go do my devotions, and I love my morning chats with the Lord. And I mean, we just chat about stuff, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that, I enjoy that. And then I said, Lord, I have to go. So anyway, I was talking to a pastor one time, and I said, oh, yeah, we were talking about something. And I said, oh, yeah. The other day I was chatting with the Lord, and he goes, what do you mean chatting? You were praying? I said, no, I was chatting. He said, you were interceding? I said, no, I was chatting. He did not understand the concept of
just like I'm sitting with you right now.
Yeah, I was chatting with him just like I was chatting with this pastor. And he could not understand that concept. And I'm like, and this is one of my favorite times where I'm like, because the thing is, I would tell Lord, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, Lord, I know I need they need help. They bless them, or they need to come up higher. It makes me mad, and I don't want to sin in my anger, and it hurts my feelings, whatever. But I said, Lord, your people need to come. And I start calling, your people need to come up higher, because these churches being closed, having meetings, and then they're always closed. And I'm like, well, it's just kind of, it's like, come on, folks, let's get a plan B. If your plan A isn't working, get a plan B. It's kind of, but anyway, and these are.
I wanted to interject something in that, because I really believe that intimacy looks different for every single person.
Yeah.
And
oh, absolutely.
I say this because I don't chat with the Lord like you do, Liz. I'm telling you, I listen and I barely talk. I barely ever talk to him. And it's not that I don't love him. I love him deeply. I have very intimate interactions with him. For me, it's spending time. It's being in the presence. It is just letting his whole being be a part of me. That's what I do. And for me, that is more meaningful than me talking. But that doesn't mean it's more meaningful for you. You have a very intimate relationship with God by chatting. I don't. And
yeah. Well, I mean, he talks back to me though too. I mean, it's a two-way conversation. It's just not me talking.
Get that. I just don't do it. And so I have to say, it could be that pastor doesn't understand, because that's not how he relates to God. For a while, I'll be honest, I was kind of immature when I was engaged to Dustin. We were, we had daily Bible study together and devotions and stuff. And I did not understand his relationship with God, because it was totally different than mine. And I questioned everything because I was like, this is not how I relate to God. So is that real that you're dealing with? This is kind of, I'll be honest, I was judgy
You know what
because
this reminds me of?
what?
Have you ever heard of the 5 love languages?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we went through
So
that.
I think
actually.
that maybe we all have our different love language with the Lord.
I was thinking that
very well
myself
be.
when we were talking about this because my 2 main love languages are quality time and physical touch.
Right.
So that's what I do with God.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so
It's what was your first one?
quality time
Quality time. Okay.
and physical touch. And so for me,
For her, it's feeling the Holy Spirit within her. That's her physical touch.
right, that's me. I actually feel it. That's for me. And so that's what I do, and that's meaningful to me. Whereas, my husband, he's a words of affirmations guy. Well, he actually chats with God like you do. I mean, he sits down and is like, so Jesus, how was your childhood? I have never even considered asking that. And it's not that it's bad, it's awesome.
He got an answer.
But I don't think of that. I think of, I just want to be with you. I don't think of, what's your childhood like? Like, I just don't even think of talking. And so, anyway, for me, it's a lot for me to even think of saying, what does this mean? Like, that alone is a big step for me to even think to ask these things. And so, anyway.
Sometimes I think we're all different not so that we can become each other,
Right.
but so that we can see through each other and learn from each other.
Mhm.
And maybe just see all the different ways that God works in us differently.
I agree.
Because we are the hands and the feet, and we fit together.
We fit together and we all have our own different
That's
things
right.
to bring to the table.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Oh yeah.
I want to share
Serious
these scrolls that I was going to get to when I was talking about the intimacy and weirdness. I don't even know how we got there. But
We ramble a little.
okay, the first scroll that I got, it said, I am the Holy One of Israel. You are to establish my kingdom on earth in this region. Take your place, stand firm, show no one anything that I haven't first shown you here. Do not waver. This is a time of boldness and mercy intermingled. My love will bring forth abundant fruit. Your ways will be higher because they will be my ways. Wisdom will guide you in all you are bringing forth. And then the second one.
Hold on just a second.
I'm sorry.
That you just read,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like that is just for you or for everyone that you read it to?
Well, at first, I thought it was for everyone that I read it to. Then God was showing me that they were specific things. Then later on, he was showing me again that it was for everyone. And so I think it just depends on the situation. For
Maybe
me,
this season.
I have to come back to it all the time. This is like on my shortcuts in my notes because I come back to it every day. And not really in a rote way. I just am always led back to it. But I don't even know where I was, but I felt like just the other day, this was supposed to be released for everyone again. And so, I think that this is supposed to be for everyone now. Especially, this is a time of boldness and mercy intermingled. Okay, but then, so this is what he told me. I can't show anyone anything that he hasn't first shown me, okay? So, I don't want to teach on things that other people have taught if it isn't what God has taught me. Here comes the third scroll, not the second. The second one, he just told me it's to hold on to, and I didn't get to look at it. So the third one, he showed me this kind of arc look, almost horseshoe looking thing, okay? That shape. And then he gave me the numbers 3, 7, and 10. And let me tell you, Mike Parsons had taught on 3, 7, and 12. So when he wrote 3, 7, when I was seeing this on the scroll, 3, 7, and 10, I actually went to write 12 because I assumed that's what it was going to be. And instead he made me write over it as 10. And so I don't know why 10 and not 12. I know that Mike Parsons' teaching has to do with a reflection, like the Sanhedrin was a reflection of heavenly things and all that. But he has shown me 3, 7, and 10. I can't explain it except for that's what he said. Therefore, that's what I'm functioning from. Okay, so test everything yourself. But I've noticed that what has happened so far in all the blueprints that have been released in this area, it's all been lined up with this. And so, and it hasn't been my doing. They haven't even known they got a blueprint except for God showed them the stuff, and it had these 7 different areas and these 3 different, it's amazing how this happens. And so anyway, this is what the scroll said. It said, open the eyes of the heart of the Joshua generation. Establish kingdom order. Release healing power of my love on earth. And then that was all that I was to see from it. And that was the kingdom order, the 3, 7, and 10. And so these are the benches. The benches have to do with the mountains of influence, the areas of influence, okay? So they can be in, for instance, let's say this, any ministry or business, even this little gig we have going on here, it doesn't have kingdom order. I'm itching for it real bad, okay? This bothers me that it doesn't have kingdom order because I know what we're supposed to do is supposed to have kingdom order. So I'm supposed to have a bench of 3 in this group, okay? That means 3 people who share the load, and it doesn't mean everybody's a teacher necessarily. It could be one person feels led to do this, but the point is not even about the outworking of it. It is about ascending and engaging in heaven together to see what God wants to pour out, to govern over the thing, okay? So let's just make this as an example. Say there was a bench of 3 here. If this would be released to everyone, there would be 7 mountains of influence, okay? So right now, we don't have any kind of kingdom order started in this particular group, but we are under the blueprint of the source. So the source does. It has a bench of 3, an angel of the house. It has 7 mountains that we've been shown on the blueprint. So here's the funny thing. I'm part of the bench of 3 at the source. Well, I don't receive blueprints. So that's not for me to receive. I know that that's not my function in the kingdom. I didn't understand that at first. I thought everyone received blueprints. But when I went to ask for a blueprint, I was told, you can't receive the blueprint. And I was like hurt because I was like, what did I do wrong? Okay, I guess I got a lot of growing to do. That's really what I thought. I was like, okay, I suck. And so anyway, that's what I thought. I was like, I don't know what I did, but
do that.
I'm not
okay.
okay.
Lives like that.
In the church, we have that concept.
yeah.
Well, we don't do things the same way as they do it. I mean, for a long time, if you didn't prophesy, well, you're just nobody.
Right.
Or, I mean, just stuff like that. We put a hierarchy on
Right.
the gifts.
I mean, after all,
and
do you
stuff.
speak in tongues or don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. So this was hard for me until God showed me that because of how I was made, I am to release people, not ever to receive them. Well, that's interesting because then I was given blueprints to release to people, but I didn't know that that was my gig. I was like, okay.
How can I give them if I don't receive them?
Well, it's
Well,
basically, it's like all of these things. God gives me a lot of stuff that they're not for me there to pass on.
yeah.
So he does that. It's because one of my main spiritual gifts is giving. Yeah. In the spirit, I am a giver extraordinary. Everything I do has to do with giving. So I am releasing stuff to people all the time. I'm putting stuff in them. I'm giving them a scroll. I'm giving them a jewel. Whatever I'm doing, I'm pouring out resources on people. I'm doing all this all the time in the spirit. That's what I do. Yeah. And I didn't realize that's not what everyone did because that's how I function. Until I started functioning in the spirit with other people and realizing that's not everyone's role. That's my role. And so I have to find my role. You have to find your role. You have to find your role. And we have to function in our role. So here's the deal. Bench of 3. they're the people who go and do legislation. They go and work in the heavenly realms and do that stuff, okay? They could have no role in, say, for instance, we had a bench of 3 here. It could be someone who isn't even part of this group, but they go and they do the work with me in the heavenly realms to be able to see it work. My sister does that to an extent, okay? Which, by the way, I'm really excited. My little sister Kim is teaching on Sunday this group, and so she's very excited to bring some stuff to guys and release her. So,
Yay,
yes,
Kim.
I know. I'm excited.
By the way, I want to tell you, that means you don't suck.
I know. What's up? Okay. God,
You know what, Christine? I was thinking the Levi's.
say that again.
Christine, I was thinking the Levi's, they did not get a land inheritance
Mm-hmm.
because everybody was supposed to support the Levi's. I don't know, just thinking
That
about
is how I am, actually. I very much have always related to the Levites, and the tribe of Levi, all they were ministers, and that's all they did. That's how I am in my life. And I've said, people get mad at me for saying this, but I say, I don't know how to do anything but minister, but that's who I am. That's the truth. Like, I'm built for ministry. I know nothing else. And everything that I do has to have to do with ministry, or it's like dead to me. And if you notice, any business I have is all ministry based. My Zervita business, ministry. Oils, ministry. Anything that I do that has anything to do with an income has to be ministry. One time I worked as a waitress and I thought I was in hell. It was horrible. And it's like not a bad job. But I thought it was terrible because I'm built for ministry. And so that was my only job that was truly secular. And I did it for a summer in college. And the next summer I said, I don't care what I'm going to do. I'll do any ministry. I don't care if I don't get paid. I'm finding an internship. I don't care what kind of ministry it is. I'm doing it. And so for me, that's how I am. Are you okay? Yes, okay. So anyway, the point of the 3, 7, and 10. So the 3, that's what the bench of 3 does. But the bench of 7, they're the ones who really outwork the ministry. So in a blueprint, you'll have 7 different mountains of influence. And so like one might be healing. One might be homeless ministry. I'm making things up, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All these different things. And then one might be teaching the word. One might be mentoring. These are different things that everyone will have different people will have different blueprints. But in this blueprint, then you will have the APEST model, the Fivefold Ministry that everyone's so obsessed with. That is outworked in the bench of 7. And so everybody has a role on the bench of 7. They're in charge of the different areas of ministry. So each mountain, the 7 mountains, has someone on it who's part of the bench of 7. So like Jason at our church, you know Jason, Kim's husband, my brother-in-law, they call him pastor. He's not a pastor at all. He is trying to reject that name, but everybody does that because he's a leader. Well,
that's the only thing they've known.
right. Yeah, and so he's actually a very gifted teacher. Well, he feels led to do these certain different things that are in charge of that. Well, there's this mountain that is, we call it the Word Mountain. Okay, well, it's basically anything that has to do with teaching and preaching the Word, like this scriptures. That's his thing. He is obsessed with the Word. You know what I mean? And he's now thankfully understanding that he has idolized the Word in a way. Because a lot of teachers have that tendency, you know, because though it is absolutely awesome, scripture is the bomb, God is bigger the bomb. Right. And so you should never love the things I say more than you love me. And that's how it is with God. You should never love the things he says more than you love him. And so anyway, not that everything in the Bible actually is the things he says, because when it was talking about, well, in Laodicea or whatever, obviously he didn't say that. They were giving context. And so I'm just putting that out there. A lot of people think that the entire Bible is his literal word. And it's actually, a lot of its context, some of it is totally his word. But it's all important. Anyway, okay, so I kind of got off. And I heard somebody out there, I feel like.
I did too.
Well, anyway, so that's where the 7 is. And then the 10 is all of it worked together. And so each of those mountains then has, even though, there's a bench of 7, each of those mountains of influence have a bench of 3. And then each of those mountains have 7 little ones around that. Okay? So say there's one that has to do with the word. Then there would be, well, we have teaching groups, we have preaching, we have whatever. Okay, I'm making these things up, but different mountains of influence. Does this make sense? It's like a mountain range. Okay?
In math, we call it a fractal.
Okay, well, you're awesome, math woman.
So similar to
Oh my goodness. She's the math guru in the group.
You are
Don't
too
know if
smart
you know
for
that.
me, but that's okay.
Hi, by the way.
Hello.
Sarah and Lexi are here.
Hello. It's called, I'm sorry, what was that word?
Fractal. Fractal.
I'm sorry, what?
Fractal.
I remember.
Fractal? Okay.
That was a long
I don't remember fractal. I remember fraction.
If you Google it, you'll find all these pretty pictures.
Okay.
But it's basically like you're talking about the mountain, 7 mountains, and then those mountains have 7 mountains. It just kind of branches out like that.
Yeah.
That's what a fractal basically is.
That's awesome. That's what it is. It's a fractal.
multiple.
Now I know.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Way like that.
Kind of.
Anyway, so that's what's up with the 3, 7, and 10. And in his revelation that I personally have received, like I said, test everything. I am not God, but I do believe it's truth. Otherwise, I wouldn't say what I received.
However
So-
you are, chip off your block.
Putting that out there. Okay. So there's nothing about that is like I pulled it from a Bible verse or anything like that. I'm sorry to disappoint. That was like direct revelation from God. So take it or leave it. Anyway, there were a couple other things that I know that we were supposed to talk about. One was about the great cloud of witnesses, because I was just hearing something recently about someone saying, we shouldn't talk to the dead. And let me just say this. Before I started engaging in heaven, I was in the exact same boat. And I was like, I don't know about all these Catholics and praying to saints and all this stuff. And I just thought, I think what they're experiencing is probably demonic. And if someone is dead, then they're in heaven. And if they're in heaven, they can't talk to you. Okay, this is what I was thinking, because I still was under the belief that you don't go to heaven until you're dead. First of all, didn't really even think about that we could do it now.
Right.
This was never taught to me. And so I didn't have this revelation. Even though I was experiencing a lot of stuff in the heavenly realms unknowingly, I didn't know what I was doing. And so anyway, there's that. So I came from that background of don't do that. It's probably demonic. And I do know a lot of speaking to the dead is demonic. I do think we have a whole lot of people who are doing let's go to a medium, let's have a seance. How many things do we know of people doing that everywhere? That's clear in the Bible that you should not do that. It's a bad thing to do, right? It says over and over in the Old Testament about that. This is clear to me. My mother, I love her very much, but she has done a lot of that stuff. Not only has she done it, she, as far as I know, still does. I don't know. She has loved John Edward. I grew up with that being the norm, was going and having someone speak to the dead, your dead relative or whatever. And I have seen the effects of that be very bad. I know that it's bad. I absolutely hate Ouija boards, things like that. I've had bad experiences with that as well. But now enter heavenly realms. Then all of a sudden, I realize I am seeing all these people who have gone before. And at first I was like, well, it makes sense. It's heaven, right? Then I started seeing them in the spirit realm here. And I would always, before that, I would see angels and I would see demons. This is what I see in the spirit realm here. I have for years. But I never saw anyone in the great cloud before. I know that in Hebrews it says we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, right?
Mhm.
But still, it didn't hit me as something that they were actually right by me. And so, anyway, started engaging in heaven, saw these people all the time, but didn't ever interact with them. Honestly, the only one I've ever interacted with is Enoch, who isn't truly dead anyway because he ascended to heaven. Anyway, I don't understand all of it, but I will say this, that Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, here comes Moses and Elijah, and they were talking to him, and he was talking to them. That's what it said in Matthew 17. And Jesus also had 3 of his disciples with him. So here these saints are interacting with them. This is something that we know if we want to be like Jesus, and he said, you'll do everything I've done and even more, then we can talk to saints, correct? We just can't talk to people who are in hell. This is what I believe. I believe that we need to only be interacting with those who are in the heavenly realms, not with anyone who isn't. And so if you find yourself interacting with someone who is not a believer and whatever, or you don't even know, just be cautious and pray. So be in the Lord, be led by the Lord, only do things that God leads you to do. Don't seek out talking to the dead. I would not recommend going and talking to your dead relatives at the grave. But if they're in the heavenly realms, Jesus might come to you. This happened to my husband. I was shocked. But shortly after his mom died this last year, he just went and was engaging in heaven and said, Jesus, I just want to know what's her real name. That's all he asked. And instead, Jesus brought her to him, and he got to interact with her. And it was life-changing. He has not mourned like other people mourn. And now I understand in the Bible where it says, we don't mourn like other people mourn. We don't mourn with like those who have no hope. Because he has seen what she looks like now, and it's like totally different. And it's exciting. And she's redeemed. And everything about it is different. And he could have a real interaction. He hasn't gone back to it since. He felt like that was a very special experience and he didn't want to ask for more. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's what he's feeling like, and so I leave that to him. But I do know that we can interact with those who are dead as long as they are alive. You know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah. Christine, can I put a qualifier in that? And I hate to be a buzzkill, but no, it's just somebody's going to hear this and they just lost a loved one. And the thing is, if I got a phone call from Liz Beamer Ministries and I got a phone call, I want to talk to my dead husband, I want to talk to him now, I could not do that for them. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
During the grieving process and whatever. And because the thing is, there's like a fine line as long as you're Holy Spirit led. And you've done that before, but I'm just thinking of what I do. And I just can imagine somebody, I just lost my husband, and it will break my heart to tell them I cannot do this. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think you're doing the right thing, just so you know.
Yeah.
I believe that that's the right thing. I would say only lead people into relationship with Jesus and he can do it for them. I mean, that's the only way to be truly spirit-led is to have them be spirit-led into it. Because I love leading people into the heavenly realms. But I have a mandate for it, first of all. And it's something that I know I'm supposed to do. That's on my destiny scroll. And so I know that this is one of my jobs in ministry is to lead people into the courts and into everywhere else that I feel led. But I am always led. I don't
Amy.
ever think, well, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
That, because that is, well, just stupid. If you do that, you are going to get yourself in all sorts of trouble. We have to only go where we're led, and we have to be sure that our soul isn't leading. It's our spirit. Our soul is
Amen.
will and emotions. And so I think, especially with people who are really raw in emotions, it's very easy to let your soul lead. And so that's probably a bad choice. With my husband, it was just him and Jesus. He wasn't even seeking it. And I believe his experience because actually, when she was dying, I led her into the courts, and it was a very crazy experience. I never experienced anything like it. But when she was in the process of dying, she was struggling with every breath. And we were kind of like, why is she still hanging on? This is too long. And I felt like God just said, you need to take her into the courts right now. So I took her in the spirit into the courts, and we did all sorts of repenting. It was real fast repenting, but all sorts of repenting. And Jesus led her into heaven. She took her last breath. That's what happened. I saw her. She looked different than she did in the earth. And so when he described her, I knew he was telling the truth because he described what I saw. And so that was a powerful thing to have that confirmation, even for me, but for him too, to know, actually, yes, you did experience your mom. So it's very weird because how she looked was nothing like she looked here. But you know how I don't know if you know, but if you've interacted with saints, it's not like you recognize them from a picture. You just know who they are. And that's how we are. And so with her, I wouldn't have known it was her if I was just looking, but I knew. I felt, you know. And so anyway, that's just all that I wanted to say about the great cloud of witnesses. But I also know that they are here to cheer us on. They're here to help us. They have been praying for a long time. They have been interceding. They're actually, when it says great cloud of witnesses, they are there on the witness stand for us. They
Amen.
will witness for us. And so this is an amazing benefit that we have, that they are already interceding, which I didn't get that before. I'll be honest. I was like, why do I need somebody else to pray to Jesus when I can pray to Jesus? This is my thought as a Protestant Christian. Okay. I didn't understand that whole thing. Now I see it's an actual court process, which I didn't understand before. I also didn't understand that they had anything to add to my life. And now I see this whole, I don't know if you guys have read any of Dutch Sheets stuff, but he has a book, a very, very short book called Appeal to Heaven. And it was very good for me to read because he talks about the synergy of the ages, and he functions in the course of heaven and all that too. But he talked about the synergy of the ages and how the prayers of the saints that have gone before us, how they kind of add on top of each other until eventually it overflows and manifests. And so what we're doing now is adding on to what they've done in the past. And so anyway, it's exciting to see this because now, I've gotten a hold of a prayer from one of my distant relatives. Like I had one of my relatives signed the Declaration of Independence, and his daughter, we came across this prayer that she wrote, and it was like, we're related. We have to be related because how she prayed is like my heart, Kim's heart. So strange. Talking about shafts of light, all this stuff nobody prays like that. Okay. So anyway, it was really powerful to me. It still is. I'll go back to it all the time and reread it because it's like we're praying together, even though she's far gone. I know, but we're praying. It's like we're praying it together. And it's really, anyway, that's all. It wasn't some big sermon, but I wanted to talk about that a little bit because of some of the skepticism and some of the negativity toward interacting with the saints. I just say if Jesus did it, I'm okay with it. So that I probably could have said that from the beginning with, and it would have been so long. Okay. Anyway, so I still don't know what the other thing was that I was supposed to talk about. There was one more thing that God was telling me that I needed to talk about.
Okay, you did the 3, 7, 10.
Yeah, but that wasn't mine. That was a
That was my
question from
question.
Trish.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions that might happen to spark anything? I don't know.
The only thing that comes to mind is healing, but I don't have an actual question per se.
Well, I do want some healing, and I specifically asked Miss Sarah over there to help me today. I want to give a little testimony, actually, about what happened to me with Dr. Sarah, because I really respect her. I respected you before, but I respect you way more now. So, first of all, it was really, man, I don't know why that, oh, it's probably here. God brought us together in a very cool way, very moving the chess pieces together kind of way, I feel like, strategy. And she happened upon this place because of Lexi's boyfriend, who doesn't even come here, but like came once or something. And he used to come to Aviator North, and I know him from there. I know him better than you. Not better than you know him, better than I know you. Anyway, but he used to come to Aviator North when we were up there, and so he's a lover of the source, even though he never really comes. And so she came, and it happened to be the day that Kim was releasing the blueprint plans to everybody, and so she was looking at it and feeling really connected to the healing part because she's a natural doctor. And so anyway, it was real exciting to me. I was like, yay, people who connect. And she's like, what? Somebody could actually be a part who hasn't been a part of this for 6 years and gone through all the testing. And we're like, did God lead you? Then yes. And so anyway, that's kind of how we found out.
Okay.
And so we got together and we were talking about what each of us do and stuff. And I was shocked that she engages in the heavenly realms and was so excited. And she has like such great gifts to offer to the kingdom. And what's really cool to me is that it's very much nothing what I do, but it is so complementary. It's very cool. It's like God just knows. We talked about, I couldn't believe she cared about frequency stuff. Like, no, that's weirdo stuff, you know, that nobody cares about. Hi, Rebecca. This whole quantum physics stuff is big to me, but nobody really tends to get into it. And so, it is terrible. Like, all of that stuff made me terrible. That's awesome. Okay, we got to get together too. So, anyway, but so she told me about some different things that she does. I was excited about it. Some of it I didn't understand at all, and I still don't, I'll be honest. And so, but the stuff I didn't understand, I'm like, well, I trust her. She's awesome. Hopefully that stuff is legit. I don't really know. And so that's just, I'm being honest, my thoughts, like I haven't experienced it. I'm kind of that person, like until I get it, I don't get it. And so anyway, I trusted everything you were doing because I've seen your walk. I don't know, I see you in the spirit, and I trust you. And so, but then we were going to Memphis, and all of a sudden in the car, I got this horrible, like, kind of pain in my gut. And then again, a second time, and I literally I'm thinking I'm going to crash the car. I have to pull over right now and have somebody else drive. And so we had in the car Dr. Sarah in the back seat, as well as Nancy, who is an EMS person. And so it's kind of like, I can't partner with medical stuff. This is just me. And so it's this weird, I don't know. I don't like anything that has to do with medicine anymore. And I had too many bad experiences with all of that stuff that we were talking about earlier. And so anyway, immediately I'm like, I need Sarah. I don't know what you need to do, but you got to save me. I'm like, I have no idea what's wrong. And I'm like, Dr. Sarah, because she's not only a doctor, but she really gets the spirit. And so the combination is beautiful. And so she just, I don't even know what she did, but it was crazy and awesome all at the same time. But what happened was, like, you guys know I'm really sensitive in my body to frequency. And so I started doing this stuff, and it was like sky high when she was doing this stuff on me. I don't even know. She's like doing chiropractor stuff, but doing this testing stuff, and I don't know. Anyway, she has such a discernment in the spirit, but also really understands the practical way of doing these things. And I just want to say I respect you so much. If you ever need any kind of physical, whatever, go to her. She's the one.
Sounds
So
like I need you.
you probably have to scrutiny you right now. So you might be having a healing session. But so for me, I a couple days ago, I injured my knee getting into the car, like doing something totally normal. But then I went and moved a house with Linda and Rachel and one other guy. We had to move everything, and I just did it, even though I was injured. And it was extremely hard work, way harder than you would think. Lots of extremely heavy stuff. And anyway, we were all working together as hard as we could. And the next day, my whole body was sore, but obviously because I just moved a ton of stuff. And so my entire body is hurting, but I'm thinking I'm just sore. And then the next day after that was yesterday, and the soreness was starting to fade and the pain was coming through of actual injuries. And so I started feeling like, oh my goodness, this is really hurting. Keep going. And then today I am struggling to walk. And every few steps horrible pain, and it won't work. Right. And so anyway, I've gone to court about it. I've soaked in the river. I have done oils. I've done ridiculous nausea. I've had them lay hands on me multiple times. And my son is really gifted in healing. Nothing happened. Anyway, I'm just like, God, what is it? I want to do whatever. I spent time in his presence in the black cloud. I'm really doing everything I know possible to do. And so anyway, she has a great gift, and I'm really hoping that she can help me tonight. And I would love if you guys would also lay hands on me, because I do believe, one thing that Jesus did is he showed me earlier this year, maybe last year, I guess, he was showing me how people are healed in the spirit. And up until this point, for years, I've been healing people, but it's all by faith. I believe, and here it comes, yay, you're healed. And so I never really understood it. I just was like, God's bigger than me and awesome, so that's how, So, but he was blessing me by showing me how it works. And so he showed me about how in the Bible, when it said to go take the people before the elders and have them anoint your head with oil and then lay hands on them, pray for them, and they will be healed, right? Well, so when that happens, when we do the oils, our frequency raises real high. First of all, if our frequency gets low, we have sickness. Now with injuries, it's a little different because something is done in your body that's different. So yes, your frequency is also low because of it, but it's not caused by a low frequency. It's just caused by something external. Well, anyway, if you raise your frequency, healing starts happening in your body. It just makes things work perfectly. Different organs have different frequencies that are optimal. But anyway, this is what happens. And so when you put oils on the head, especially high frequency oils like frankincense, which is one of the main oils that was used in the Bible, frankincense and myrrh, both of them are very high frequency oils. So you put that on your head and it raises your awareness in the spirit, right? Well, when people gather around, lay hands on you, if they're engaging in heaven, if you're engaging, first of all, if you're praying, your frequency goes higher. If you're engaging in heaven, it's like super duper high. So if you have read the Bible, everybody's engaging in heaven practically. So the elders, we can assume, had a strong relationship with God, probably engaging in heaven. I never thought of this before, okay? But they're laying hands. When their frequency raises real high, when they're engaging and they're laying hands on somebody, that electrical current is going to go through the body and supercharge the body. This is amazing. I can't even believe that the Lord showed me how it works, because this is very cool. Now, there's more, like she has chiropractor stuff going on where she can actually manipulate the body and make it work right. She can test it to figure out what it actually needs, what oil's good, whatever is good, Anyway, it's pretty exciting. There's so much that can go into healing, but that alone was really exciting to me. So Liz said, this is going backwards a little bit. What is the black cloud? The black cloud is where the presence of the Father, the person of the Father is. And you can see it in the Old Testament a lot with Moses. If you remember, God's voice came out of the black cloud that was full of lightning and thunder and all of that on the mountain. That was Moses going up to the mountain to hear from God in the black cloud.
Oh, okay.
Then you can also see in Psalm, I want to say 92. I'm not quite sure about that. I'll get to you again. But anyway, it talks about it more. And there's a lot of different places that talk about it. I was just like, I'm like, what is this black cloud? That sounds demonic. And so anyway, it's not demonic. Actually, it's quite biblical. And it is powerful. The reason I said I went into the black cloud is because my first experience with that and actually being the presence of the Father was, by the way, the best experience in my life. Everyone must experience this because he is the best. But anyway, I came out of that experience completely healed from an ankle injury. And so that's why I did that. I was like, okay, being in his presence healed me. I'm doing that. And so, I don't know. It's not like I just want to be in his presence for healing. But I do know that in his presence there's healing. And so that's why I also did that. Anyway, I said all that to say, would y'all lay hands on me and would you let Sarah do her weird, crazy awesomeness, please? Because I am impressed. And if you don't want it on camera, that's okay. But it makes a big deal and big difference to me. So.
Christine, before they do that, who is the young woman who spoke to me?
Cassandra.
Thank you, Cassandra. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you greatly. You're a good kid.
Everyone's a kid to her. She thinks something, right?
Everybody thinks I'm a kid.
I have, well, honey, I have let me see. I was talking to a 40-year-old and I thought he was 20. Okay. So, everybody's a kid to me.
She thought I was like pretty young too when I was talking to her on the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm in my 50s.
Yeah. You're getting close to her age.
I'm like 26 at work, so it's fine. I don't mind.
All right. Well, if you guys don't mind, I would love some laying on of hands. And
Yay!
actually, hey, let's have some communion too, because that's another thing that's super powerful for healing.
Yes,
please.
And I don't want to
So,
take away from what she's doing for you, but
Yeah.
I have similar issues, and I would love some help.
Here's for you, Missy. Awesome. Well, we might have a big laying on of hands session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, karamashikididididi.
Thank you for the communion stuff. So, okay, I'm turning off the video. I don't like being on video like this. It makes me crazy. Okay. Sorry. There. Look at my pretty Facebook picture. That's better.
It is
I
lovely.
usually do. It's
It's actually not that pretty, but it's prettier than looking at the full body
I like it.
craziness. All right. So as we take communion together, I usually lead us through in my way. Does anyone want to lead us through however you feel led? Anyone?
I have a little bit different prayer. It's just printed, and I'm just going to read it, but if that's okay.
Sure. All right, so we are engaging in heaven when we do this, by the way. So let's focus our hearts and our minds on Jesus. Wherever you feel led, I always go to the banqueting table, but do your thing.
Okay. Yes, Jesus, we do. We just by faith we go through the veil and we focus on you. It's all about you. It's all about the Father. It's all about the Holy Spirit. You are all one, and we are one with you because we, by faith, we come into the Father's presence. And Jesus, we ask that you do take us to the banqueting table. And Lord, I'm going to go ahead and read this prayer. Just a second. Okay. Lord, I thank you as I have the elements of your body and blood in my hands. By faith, I have the very record of the DNA of God, and I call to remembrance the three-strand light of the DNA of God in the marrow of my bones. I call that into remembrance right now, and I call it to reproduce in my physical body and blood. I celebrate that these elements create a focal point, an arc, first with my spirit, a window of heaven for the glory of God to come forth and manifest in my life. Lord, as I take these elements, I thank you that it changes every single part of me, the very sound of heaven, that sound of the Lord, the sound of who you are, and it would manifest in me, Lord. That as I take this, I would become one with you, Lord. That this deals with every record of sin, iniquity, and transgression in my body, soul, and spirit. Lord, I thank you that it deals with every root of anger, fear, confusion, rebellion, witchcraft, and it deals with any seed of Cain, Nephilim seed, reptilian seed, alien seed, occultic seed that is in me, God. I thank you that you burn those records in me and that it would bring to remembrance that light, the creative light of who I am in my body, Lord. And I thank you that as I do this, I will say to my bones in my physical body, you will live and not die. You will live and not die. You will live and not die. Thank you, Lord, that this is the ultimate trade. I come and stand in the Lord on the sea of glass, and I trade it for more relationship with you, that it would open the door to areas of my life that I have not been able to access for God. Lord, take me deeper down 7 layers. Take me to the deep places of your heart, that as I take this, I become one with you as you are one with the Father. And so I thank you, and I love you so much. Christine, would you take us through the sacrifice?
Living sacrifice.
Yes, please.
Sure. Well, Jesus, we come with you as our high priest, and we want to lay ourselves out as a living sacrifice to you. We ask that you take that sword of the Spirit, the double-edged sword that is able to divide our soul and spirit and our bone and marrow. We ask that you take it and just slice off our heads and give us the mind of Christ. We ask that you chop off our arms and let us give and receive how you would. We ask that you chop off our legs and let us go where you want us to go and walk in your ways. We ask that you just slice us right down the center, open up our inner parts, reveal everything within us that needs any kind of cleansing. We ask that you split open our heart, reveal the 4 chambers, and burn up any iniquity that's inside of us. We ask that you take that sword and dig it deep, dividing our bone and marrow, and that you just replace our marrow to make it a new source of blood that is a reflection of God's DNA in us, and it will just replace our own DNA. So we want to be one with you, Jesus, and so please just lay us on the altar right now before the Father and before his throne, and burn us up so we are pure spirit. We want our soul to come under our spirit and for us to be completely united with you. Thank you.